This video is about slope-intercept form from a table. So we're going to be using the equation y equals mx plus b. Slope-intercept form from a table. Review. Remember that y equals mx plus b gives us the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. We can use the equation to graph the line. We can also use the equation to plug in a number for x and get the y. Or we can plug in a number for y and get the x. In the equation, m stands for slope. The y-intercept is represented by b. Graphs can be represented by tables. When we have a linear graph or equation, a table is a collection of points that lie on the line. For example, this table shows 4 points that lie on the graph. So you can see we have the point 0, comma, negative 1. That point lies right here. We have 3, comma, 0. That one's right there. And then negative 3, negative 2. And then we can't go to 6, positive 1. But if we could, it would be about right there. So this table is showing what could be on this graph and where this line will go if it's on a graph. Steps to find y equals mx plus b from a table. First, we're going to find the slope of the table. Remember that we find slope from a table by using the formula m equals, or slope equals, change in y over change in x. So if we look at my change in y, that's going from negative 2 to negative 1. I'm adding 1 there. Negative 1 to 0, I'm adding 1. 0 to 1, I'm adding 1. So the change in y is going to be 1. Looking at my change in x, negative 3 to 0, I could subtract 0 minus negative 3. That's going to get me plus 3. 0 to 3, I'm adding 3 again. 3 plus 3, I'm adding 3. It's going to get me 6. So my change in x is going to be 3. So then when I put this in, my change in y is 1. My change in x is 3. So my slope is 1/3. That's going to be my m value in the equation y equals mx plus b. My second step is to find the y-intercept, or my b. What is the value of y when x equals 0? So I'm looking at where x equals 0. It's going to be this point right here, 0, comma, negative 1. So my b is going to be that number right there, negative 1. And now I'm using my m and my b into the formula, y equals mx plus b. My y and x stay the same, y equals, my m is 1/3, so I plug that in, 1/3 x. And then my b is negative 1, so I write minus 1. And that's going to be my equation for this line. Number 1. So my first step is going to be to find my slope, my m. So I'm going to write m equals change in y over change in x. If I look at my table, I see that the change in y, as I go up, it's going negative 3 to negative 1. I am adding 2. Negative 1 to 1, I'm adding 2. 1 to 3, I'm adding 2. So my change in y is 2. My change in x, negative 8 to negative 4, I'm adding 4. Negative 4 to 0, I'm adding 4. 0 to 4, I'm adding 4. And remember that if you don't see the jumps as easily as some people do, remember you can just subtract. So if I take these two right here, 4 minus 0 is going to get me positive 4. So that tells me that I'm adding 4 to get from here to here. So I'm left with m equals 2/4, but that can further be reduced. So if I divide by 2 from the top and the bottom, I'm going to get m equals 1/2. So then I'm going to be looking for my b. Remember that my b is where x is 0, what is y? So when x is 0, my y is 1, so b equals 1. So I'm going to go ahead and write the equation. Remember, it's y equals mx plus b. My m is going to be 1/2 x. I just copy the x down, plus my b, which is 1. So my equation is y equals 1/2 x plus 1. Number 2. So my first step, as always, in trying to find out y equals mx plus b, the equation of a line for the table, is I'm going to go ahead and figure out what my m is, what the slope is. M equals change in y over change in x. That's my formula that I'm going to use. So I'm going to look at my y column. I'm going to see what's the difference between -5 and -4. Well, -5 to -4, it's going up 1. -4 to -3, we're adding 1. -3 to -2, we're adding 1. So my change in y is 1. Then I'm going to look at my x, my change in x. So from -10 to -5, I'm adding 5. -5 to 0, I'm adding 5. 0 to 5, adding 5. So my change in x is 5. So then my m is going to be 1/5. I don't need to reduce that any further. That's as far reduced as it can be. So now I'm going to go on to my b, or my y-intercept. To find my b, I look at what y is when x equals 0. So when x is 0, y is -3, so my b is -3. Then I'm going to use the equation y equals mx plus b. Here, y equals 1/5, that's my m, x, and then my b is -3, so I'm going to write -3. Now some of you guys may be tempted to write y equals 1/5 x plus -3. That's not technically wrong, but you might as well just take out the plus sign because it's saying the same thing. Plus and negative is the same thing as just subtracting. And on test, you're going to see it this way. So make sure you're used to seeing it that way. There are a few more things I wanted to add when it came to writing these equations down, especially in special situations when m is equal to 1 and b is equal to something like 0. Kids get kind of confused about how to write those, so I wanted to go over those. So remember that my equation that I'm copying from is y equals mx plus b. I'm just filling in the m and the b there. So if my m is 1 and my b is 4, you might be tempted to write y equals 1x plus 4. This is technically correct, but you're not going to see it this way on test. The way you're going to see it on test is y equals x plus 4. Remember that when there is a 1, when there is nothing in front of the x, then we understand it to be a 1. So this is the same as this, it's just what you're going to see on test. Then if we have m being -1, it's a similar situation. You may want to write it y equals -1x plus 4. On a test, you're actually going to see it as y equals -x plus 4, because if there's nothing in front of the x, we understand that to be a 1. Then we have a situation where b equals 0, so you might want to write it like y equals 3x plus 0. Once again, not technically wrong, but you're not going to see it that way on a test. You're going to see it as y equals 3x without the 0. And then lastly, if you have an equation that is m equals 1, b equals 0, you may want to write it y equals 1x plus 0, but what is technically correct here is y equals x, and that's it. Because you know that there's nothing in front of the x, it's going to be 1, and if there's nothing added on, you're technically adding 0. So this is what the correct equation would be there. I hope this video helped you understand how to find slope-intercept form from a table. But remember that you don't learn math by just sitting and watching a video, you learn it by doing it. So go ahead and go out and do it, and good luck.